Well, hello everyone. So, if given opportunity, we would like to present our material about the branches of linguistics. But before we start our presentation, we would like to introduce ourselves first. So, my name is Ninengah Dina Juliani, and my student number is 221-2021-039. And there are also my friends here.
My name is Nikoma Windoastuti and my student number is 221-202-103H.
Hello everyone, my name is Lusarat Aprilia and my student number is 221202143.
Hello everyone, my name is Eriska Forin and my student number is 22120210047.
So that's our brief introduction. Right now, let's start the presentation. So as you can see on the screen, these are the material that we are going to talk about. So linguistic has two branches. First is microlinguistic and second is macrolinguistic. So for Aska, you can continue the explanation.
Okay, so for the microlinguistics, we have phonetics, phonology, morphology, semantics, pragmatics, and also syntax. And for the phonetics, it contains of articulatory, acoustics, and also auditory. So for the macrolinguistic, Dina, you can continue it.
Okay, for the macrolinguistic, has two branches. First is interdisciplinary and then intradisciplinary. So for the interdisciplinary, consists of sociolinguistic, psycholinguistic, neurolinguistic, stylistic, cognitive linguistic, geographical linguistic, and confusional linguistic. And then the second range of macrolinguistic is interdisciplinary, consists of applied, theoretical, historical, descriptive, and comparative. So that's the material that we're going to talk about today. And then let's start with the first topic. Indu, you can continue the presentation.
Okay, Dina, thank you for this opportunity. So now I want to explain the branches of microlinguistic. The first one is phonetic. Phonetic is defined as the branch of linguistics that study the production and classification of human sounds. Phonetic pays special attention to the influence that vocal organs, such as the lips and tongue, have in the formation and enunciation of sounds. Phonetic also includes the study of how nonverbal speech is learned, used, and understood. In the phonetic, there have three disciplines. The first one is articulatory phonetics. Articulatory phonetics, the study of how sounds are produced by the human vocal apparatus. Human sounds production used two organ groups, respiratory and vocal. The respiratory organ groups contain all organs involved in breathing, especially the lungs. And while the vocal organ groups contain all of the muscle that manipulate the passage of air through the nose and mouth, especially the tongue, lips, teeth, vocal cord, glottis, and throat. For example, the vowel A, as in cat, it is produced by lowering the jaw and opening the mouth wide. And another example, the consonant P is produced by closing the lips, like when you say pen or apple. The second one is acoustic phonetic. Is the study of how speech sound are physically produced and transmitted through the air as sound waves. The study of acoustic phonetic, it concerns the qualities of tone, rhythm, intonation, and how the saints perceive and understand them. For example, a spectrogram is a visual representation of the acoustic property of speech sound. Spectrogram can be used to distinguish between the vowel sound in the words beat and bit, based on their different formant frequencies. And the last one is auditory phonetic. Auditory phonetic focus on the relationship between the mind, auditory perception, and psychical property of sounds. For example, distinguish between the P and B sound or the S and sh sound. Okay, now let's move on the phonology. Next slide. Okay, well, phonology is the study of speech sound and manual units and how they change in different contexts within and among languages. And there, the phonology, they have further defined by a specific term, such as, next slide, such as phonemes, allophonemes, and morphemes. Phonemes are the smallest meaningful speech sound in a vocal language when contrasted with other speech sounds. There is a distinct difference in meaning. Phonemes can be vowel or consonant. For example, F and W are phonemes because they differentiate the meaning of the word fish and wish, as well as A and I in the case of the word wish and was. Allophonemes. Allophonemes do not change the meaning of the word of which they are a part, rather, the pronunciation is different for each allophone. For example, allophone of the phoneme T may sound different when pronounced, depending on their position within the word, as in the words kitten, toy, atom, and truck. And the last is morphemes. Morphemes are short segments of language. They are part of a word or may be words themselves. Placing a morpheme in different words does not alter the morpheme's meaning. For example, the morpheme re always means again in all words of which it is a part. Okay, now let's take a look to semantic. Semantic is the branch of linguistics that deals with the study of meaning in language. It is concerned with how words and phrases convey meaning, how the meanings of words are related to each other, and how meaning is affected by context. The different theory used within semantic, they are as a formal semantic, lexical semantic, and conceptual semantic. Next slide. Okay, formal semantic use technique from math, philosophy, and logic to analyze the broader relationship between language and reality, truth and possibility. For example, Montague grammar. Montague grammar is a type of formal grammar that uses lambda calculus to represent the meaning of language. And the second one is lexical semantic. deconstructs word and phrases within a line of text to understand the meaning in terms of context. Lexical semantic can include a study of individual nouns, verb, adjective, prefix, root word, suffix, or longer phrases or idioms. For example, the word happy and glad are a synonym, or hot and cold are antonym. Next slide. And the last one is conceptual semantic. Conceptual semantic deals with the most basic concept and form of a word before our thoughts and feelings added context to it. For example, at its most basic, we know a cougar to be a large wild cat, but the word cougar has also come to indicate an older woman who is dating a younger man. Okay, well, that's all about the explain uh, about the branches of microlinguistics. So the next explain will be continue by my friends.
Okay, thank you, Windu, for the opportunity that given to me. So, in this section, I will explain about the branches of microlinguistics, its morphology. So, what is morphology? Morphology is the study of the structure of words and what is the relation to other words. In this discussion about morphology, we focused on morphemes. So, morphemes is the smallest meaningful unit in language. Uh, that morphemes cannot be broken down into smaller meaningful bits. So it is just sounds, individual sounds or sequence, which in and of themselves are meaningless. From the description that I have told before, word is not the smallest unit in language. There is still morphemes that was the smallest of uh, of the unit the of the unit in language. Okay, okay. For example, there is a word category that has one morphemes because the word category doesn't have smaller meaningful bits. As you can see, the word as you can see, the word category have the word cat and also the word gory. But these two words has nothing to do with the meaning of the word category. But it is different with the words categorize. This word this word has two morphemes because we already consider category as a word and we have uh, the ICE as the suffix in addition, which is meaningful because it helps to form a verb from a noun. And for another example, there is a word keyboard that has two morphemes, which is key and also board. Uh, this and the word key and board has has meaning in each word. Then we combine these two separate words and morphemes to form a new words. So you can consider a keyboard as that has two morphemes. Okay, next is syntax. Syntax is the study of the rules that govern of sentences in grammatical structure. Uh, so in syntax, there are sequences in the making of sentences. But before that, I will explain how the sentences is made. There is phonemes that is combined to form morphemes. After that, uh, morphemes is combined to form the words. And this is what I'm going to tell you more about how words combine to form sentences. Okay, sentences are made up of chunks that also combine constituent. A constituent is a word of group of words that functions as a single unit. Okay, for example, there is a sentence. There is two sentence, which is while Jane and Mary were hang out in the mall, and also someone followed them. So all sentences can be broken down into constituents, and it can be divided into smaller constituents, uh, like um, Jane and Mary were hang out, or Jane and Mary were hang out in the mall, and also Jane and Mary were hang out is still a constituent. And you also can consider Jane and Mary uh, as a constituent because this phrase has a meaning that you can still understand, and as does the word Jane by itself. So we can consider that single words can still be constituents without other words. And it's different with the group, uh, sorry, and it's different uh, with the phrase while Jane, that it is not a group of words because it doesn't have the meaning and you cannot understand what does it mean. And after that, the concept of constituency is a group of words that help us to understand about how words allowed us to move within the sentence. So you are allowed to move the constituent as long as it is still grammatical. In making sentence, there is hierarchy that means the inception for sentences. Okay, for example, the sentence is I feel a good blessing this. And this sentence is made up of noun phrase and verb phrase. From verb phrase, we have verb and noun phrase. So the noun phrase is I, and the verb phrase is feel a good blessing from this. But from the verb phrase feel a good blessing from this, we have verb and noun phrase, which is the verb is the feel, and the noun phrase is a good blessing from this. So that is syntax in linguistic. Okay, for the next one, there is pragmatics. So what is pragmatics? Pragmatics is, I think it's quite similar to semantics, which is the study of the word meaning in a language. And pragmatics is the study of the word's meaning in a language with social context. So the difference between semantics and pragmatics is in the context. Semantic focus on the significant words in literal sense, and while pragmatics focus on the meaning. And in pragmatics, there are two contexts such as linguistics context and also non-linguistic context. Uh, linguistic context is the domain of phonology, morphology, and also syntax, which the context is inside the language, but if non-linguistic context uh, is um, is the domain of language that the context is outside of the language. Okay. For the linguistic context, there are example of a sentence that is the woman kissed the cat, and also the cat kissed the woman. Okay, in this sentence, in these two sentences contain the same words, but in different meaning about who is doing what to who based on the word order. And it helps us to determine meaning. So it is providing context, but inside the language. And for the non-linguistic context, usually requires our knowledge of real words around us to make sense of something that we see or hear in language. For example, there are advertisement that show a picture and also a sentence that state sale baby and toddler. If you see this sentence, maybe you mean it uh, as a as a baby sale and also toddler sale, which is they sell baby and toddler. But but as you know that this thing is illegal to do, so from our knowledge we try to mean it into positive way, and you can mean it as the shop that sell baby toddler stuff like baby bottle, stroller, or baby clothes, something like that, and etc. And you mean it as an unintended meaning, that is that yeah, it is a shop that sell baby and toddlers that sell baby and toddler stuff. So that's all about the pragmatics. And I think that's all about the microlinguistics branches. The next explanation will be continued by my friends.
Okay, Rizka, thank you for the opportunity. So I will explain about macrolinguistics. In macrolinguistics have interdisciplinary and intradisciplinary. So I will explain about interdisciplinary branches of macrolinguistics. Next. Okay. And the first is sociolinguistics. Sociolinguistics is the branch of linguistics that deal with the effect of society on a language. For the example of sociolinguistics can be applied to virtually any area of daily life because language is so central to human social experience. Sociolinguistic example that linguists might study could include: the first is large-scale national studies of linguistic variation across a country. The second is small-scale local studies of linguistic variation in a state or city. The third is studies of language variation on a particular axis, like gender or social class. And the last is studies of language variation among particular groups, like immigrants or second language speaker. Okay, next. The next is psycholinguistics. Psycholinguistics is a study that concerns with how language is represent and processed in the brain. One example of psycholinguistics is the study of language development in infants. Infants begin to acquire language very early in life, even before they can produce any recognizable word. Okay, next. The next is neurolinguistics. Neurolinguistics deals with the study how language is represents in the brain, how and where a brain stores knowledge of a language that we speak. Here's an example of how the brain processes information according to Occurrence neurolinguistics. A person reads the word carrot in a book. Immediately, their brain recalls the meaning of the word. In addition, their brain also recalls how a carrot smells, feels, and tastes. The person all recalls that they like eating carrots and they have memories of carrots, including images of how carrot looks. This means that besides processing the word carrot, the person brains associates the word with their experience involving carrots. Okay, next. The next is compositional linguistics. Compositional linguistics is a branch of linguistics that is concerned with the rules-based modeling of natural language from a compositional perspective. The example is compositional linguistics is machine translation, which involves the use of computer to translate text from one language to another. Another example is speech recognition, which involves the use of computer to convert spoken language into text. Other applications of compositional linguistics include natural language processing or NLP, sentiment analysis, and text-to-speech synthesis. Compositional linguistics is a rapidly growing field that is used in many industries including healthcare, finance, and entertainment. Okay, next. The next is stylist linguistics. Stylist is the study of varieties of language whose properties position that language in context. For example, of the language of advertising, politics, religion, individual, and another, or the language of period in time. All are used distinctively and belong in a particular situation. Next. Okay, next. The next is geopractical linguistics. For the example is dialect. Dialect are variations of language that are spoken in the different regions or communities. Geographical linguists study how to know dialect vary across different regions and how they are related to each other. They may also examine how dialects have changed over time, as well as how they are influenced by factors such as migration and contact with other languages. Another example of geographical language is the study of language families. A language family is a group of languages that are related to each other because they share a common ancestor. Geographical linguists study how these language families are distributed across different regions on the world and how they have evolved over time. Okay, next. Cognitive linguistics. Cognitive linguistics argues that semantics involve conceptualization or conceptual of an experience by a speaker for the purpose of linguistic communication. For example, of an English noun can be used in a men's noun grammatical context, as in there was hook week there, just a crash of car or a tasted example. Okay, that's all about the interdisciplinary branch of macrolinguistics. The next material will be continued by my friends.
Okay, uh, thank you for the opportunity. Right now, I'll explain the interdisciplinary. So the first branches of interdisciplinary are theoretical linguistic. So what is theoretical linguistic? So theoretical linguistic deals with the concrete theories presented by scholars of language about various aspects concerning to linguistic. For the example, the study of semantics, which is concerned with the meaning of words, phrases, and sentences. Theoretical linguists may develop models to explain how meaning is constructed and how words are related to each other and how context affect interpretation. So let's continue the next slide. Okay, for the second branches of interdisciplinary is historical linguistic. So historical linguistic is the scientific study of language change over time. For the example, principal concern of historical linguistic include how and why language changes in particular languages, histories of words, and then uh, another example is etymology, history of speech communities, and relation between different language families. Okay, the third branches of interdisciplinary, so descriptive linguistic. So this study is concerned with the description and analysis of the ways in which language operates and is used by a given set of speakers at a given time. So, for the example is the study of English phonetics, which examine or explain the sound of the English and their use in speech. And then we have applied linguistic as branches of interdisciplinary. So applied linguistic is examines the structure of language and its role in communication, language acquisition, second language learning, how the social or cultural environment interacts with language, and structure of language, its role in communication. So, for the example, the development and implementation of language education policies and programs in a country. This involves the application of linguistic theories and principles to address real-world language-related issues and problems. For instance, applied linguistics can be used to help design effective language learning curricula, create language assessment tools, and then develop teacher training programs. So, and then we have comparative linguistic. So, comparative linguistics is an interdisciplinary field of linguistics that deals with comparative study of different languages. For the example, is the study of the Indo-European language family, which includes languages such as English, French, German, Spanish, Russian, and many others. Comparative linguists have analyzed the similarities and differences between these languages to, to reconstruct the central language from which they are all descended, which is known as Proto-Indo-European. So that's all about the material that we talked about today. Thank you for watching, guys, and sorry if there's a mistake. And goodbye.
Goodbye, guys. See you.